I'd like to thank you for all your comments in our last video. It caused a bit of a stir, didn't it? But it was wonderful to read all your comments and see all the different opinions. Really was. Now, in today's programme, we shall be giving you an update on the seedlings that we sowed just 2 weeks ago and how they're doing in that fertile fibre compost. Also, we shall be getting a visit from some friends of the channel. Hello and welcome back to the No Dig Norfolk Gardener. Yeah, one of the things that struck me through the comments in our last video was that basically all agree that soil health is paramount. It really is, something that you need to do to be able to grow great plants. And it was interesting to see that there were some of you that create enough compost for your whole garden. Unlike us, we can't quite do that yet. We've not managed that. We can get about half of what we need, but we've still got a way to go. Some of you are like us in that you can't produce enough compost for your plots, and some of you are producing compost that you can actually grow your seedlings in to avoid having to buy in compost. Great stuff. Compost is something that we should be focusing on very much through this season of videos, and we shall come back to it time and time again. And on the subject of creating potting mixes that you can start your own seedlings off in, something that myself and Mrs. W have been experimenting with and trying, and you should see some videos regarding that and our efforts later on in the season. But actually, the majority of us, you're just like us. You do rely on actually bringing composts in, buying them and using them. And in our case, it's probably because we haven't yet perfected how to make our own seed potting compost, although we're working on it. But also there's the time element. Maybe people out there that are like us, work all week, we have a limited amount of time, we've got grandchildren to look after, amongst all the other things that we have to do. And sometimes there just isn't the time. So there are varying reasons. But as you know, if you're a follower of this channel, have been watching the last 160 odd videos that we've put out there, you'll know that the one thing that I always do say is do make your own compost. However little it is, do make your own compost. It is the best and it will always have the highest amount of nutrients. Really pleased with this fertile fibre compost. That has worked. The plants look healthy and they're growing really very well. And I know that Frank, you had a comment on a video, I think it was on the Sow Along video, you were saying about your interest in us using vermiculite, and you can see that they push through really very well indeed. But actually if you scrape away the vermiculite, you can see that the compost underneath is nice and moist. It's not hard, so it doesn't obstruct the seedling coming through. And that's why we like to use it personally. You don't have to. They will eventually find their way through when you're just sprinkling compost over the top. But we've found over the years that this is a really great way of covering that compost. Helps hold the moisture in as well. Vermiculite is really porous, so when you water, you don't get a big pooling of water all over your seedlings.
Anybody at home in the tunnel? Hello, Barry.
Hello, Tim.
Hello, Mrs. W. I'm very well. How are you?
How are you?
I'm all right.
You said you were going to
Fancy
pop
meeting you in the tunnel. What a lovely tunnel. No, we've been building tunnels just down the road, so we thought we'd just drop in and say hello.
Have you? So
Yeah.
back in Norfolk building even more
We've been
tunnels?
back in Norfolk, yeah. We've got another one to do today and tomorrow, so no, it's busy times. Busy times.
Fantastic.
This looks amazing. How are you getting on?
Oh, it's just so good. I can't tell you how good it is. You know, if you look around here, I'll tell you what really is interesting, Tim. We actually dug these out of our garden, and you can hear just how crispy they are.
Look at that, yeah.
The ones outside actually were, they're frozen, you know, they've gone limp. But these will continue. We're nearly into February now, and we're still having fresh celery.
It's fantastic.
So that's been a really good success, being able to move that. And, you know, I'm sure you know, in the UK,
it's growing, yeah.
in the UK, celery's finished by November. As soon as the frost comes, it's gone.
And there you go, and you've got some pak choi there.
Pak choy, yeah. Got some spinach that we've been picking. You can see we've had a little bit of slug problems, but Mrs. W's on top of that.
She's been using your beer right here.
Yes. Yes.
What I can't believe, though, is I watched your video only a couple of weeks back, your YouTube video about you sowing all that stuff. Look at it. Look how that's come up. I mean, that was literally, what, 2 or 3 weeks ago?
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks.
Yeah, it was 13th of January these were all sown.
Fantastic. Really good.
Yeah, and again, you know, we can use this polytunnel, you know, to keep them in here. They won't freeze. It'll never get cold enough. And if we really did think we were going to get a hard frost, we just lay a bit of fleece over them, just to give them that little extra protection.
But it just shows, doesn't it? It just shows what a tunnel adds to a garden. Oh. It's not everything you want, and you'll still have your garden outside, but you can just bring stuff on so much quicker, can't you? And earlier and extend your season.
Definitely. I mean, this potting table has been a godsend.
Yeah,
it really has.
Good.
The video you were saying you watched, the sew along, everything was filmed here.
Yeah. Perfect.
You know, this tunnel is not for us, you know, as with our YouTube channel. It's not just to be able to grow things, you know, it's also so that we've got lots of room to show people and be able to film well, so that people can see, you know, exactly how these things need to be done. So, you know, that was another reasoning for us getting this. I remember getting a comment not long after, actually, you put this tunnel up, and somebody said, Jesus, your paths are wide, you can be growing more stuff. But of course what they don't realise is that we have to film.
Yes.
And you know, we're going to be doing a melon grow along this year.
Okay, yeah, that'd be good.
Tomatoes will be here, you know, they'll be growing up here, the melons somewhere up here, you know. And it's no good us coming along like this trying to film sort of thing, you know. That's why our paths, yes, we haven't maximised our growing space.
Yeah.
But they're the reasons behind it, you know. So this tunnel works on so many different levels for us.
Yeah.
But its main focus for us is to grow us food.
Yep.
Yeah. And you know, we've got some ideas coming up, you know, whereby we hope to be able to show people, you know, how you can perhaps have something just a little bit earlier.
Yep.
You know, because it's protected under cover.
Yeah.
Yes, you may have to come and water it, of course you do, although at this time of the year hardly need to do any watering in here. If we come in here once a week, that's about as much as we come along.
You're not losing much moisture, are you?
No.
And it's so good, and I think just be able to extend that season. Yeah. And as soon as you take anything out of the worst of the wind, worst of the rain, they just love it, and they do so well.
Everything is thriving. I mean, you talked about the pak choi. They went in there right at the very end of October, and probably since mid-November we've been taking leaves off them.
Yeah.
So yeah, really has worked. Even carrots, Tim.
Look at that, yeah. Gosh.
They germinated again in November. They've slowed right down, they've hardly grown. But once we do get that little bit warmer weather, mid to late February and into March, they'll suddenly take off. And these are the things we're trying to hope to show people, that we'll be eating those carrots late April and into May.
And what variety are those?
These are Marion and Norwich.
Norwich.
Everybody says that.
Fancy that. Well, that's great. No, that's right. So when do you think they'll be ready? May time?
Late April and into May.
Fantastic.
But May is such a difficult time. It's known as the hungry gap.
Yep.
When you're still waiting for your first plants to, you know, then come to their harvest, which will be sometime in June.
Yeah.
Carrots, usually July when you sow them in April,
Yeah.
12 weeks before you've got something of a harvestable size.
And also you'll be able to go later, hopefully, as well. That'd be an interesting one. See how late you can go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's another thing. I hadn't even thought that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. I'm full of good ideas.
So, yeah, you know, these are the ways in which you can use your undercover growing structures, you know, and the poly has been really great.
I'm so glad you're getting on well with it, and it's just great to be able to show people what you can do with a tunnel and how it can add to your growing season. So it's really, really good.
Got some spring greens again ready for the hungry gap.
The hungry gap.
But it's the most awkward time for any gardener.
Yeah.
You know, it really is, and anything you can get to in May and into early June, it's just an absolute bonus.
Yeah.
Yes, we've got things in the freezer which we've frozen from last year, but they won't last forever.
No.
And of course, we always try. One of our goals is always to have something fresh every day.
Every day.
We can have something fresh from our garden or the tunnel or the greenhouse every day. You know, that's our aim. And with the cabbages, the carrots, we've got purple sprouting broccoli. There's a variety out there which should start to harvest in April and continue on into May.
Yep.
So that we get a bit of variety. Spring onions. These spring onions we actually put in here again during November. They've been slowly growing away, and you can sort of see here they're getting to they're not far away from being able to be used. And again, you know,
that's incredible.
March
what are
time.
We? You know, a week to go in January still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they've just stood there, you know, and done their thing.
Well, especially you imagine. I mean, it's been such a windy month, hasn't it, and a lot of rain. Oh. Things would have just been miserable outside, but they're just doing so well.
Well, I don't know what it's like on your side of the country, Tim, but certainly here I've never known it to be so wet. There's so much rain between August and really up until the last couple of weeks when it's been freezing and a little bit of white stuff.
No, that's right. Yeah.
And it's such a relief actually not to have any rain.
Oh, isn't it? Yeah. No. Well, you can imagine us building tunnels this time of year. Yeah. We like it dry. Yeah.
I can indeed. I can indeed. Now, one of the things I would actually like you just to show us, and I know you've bought them ready for us, is the trellis cable, exactly how we put that up here.
Yep.
Because,
no problem at
as
all.
I said earlier, we got lots to do with our viewers this year. Melons, tomatoes, cucumbers.
Yeah.
Watermelons.
And all these things you want to be able to either put a string up or a wire up.
Yes.
Into, yeah.
Yes,
so what we have are what we call these trellis cables, which have a carabiner at one end and then this hook that screws in the other end. And you can see in the roof of the tunnel we have all these eyelets in many, many places right across. So this one I'm going to put across. So we just hook the carabiner in there, like that. And then that comes across to here. So it's long enough there. Hook it back into there. And then we just tighten it up. And so this will be perfect for your middle bed and anything you wanted to hang on there. And it'll take hanging baskets, it'll take, you know, you've got some strawberries in baskets here, or you can just run all your strings for your tomatoes, melons, whatever you want up to it. So that's now got a lot of weight on it, and I can actually...
Ooh.
So they take a huge amount of weight. So yeah,
amazing.
And so we'll leave you plenty of those so you can decide where to put them.
That's fantastic.
And that's as simple as that.
Yep.
Do you know what? Even with my limited DIY skills, I think I can do that, Mrs. W.
I think you should leave that to Mrs. W to do, quite frankly.
My reputation does go before me. So all these seedlings that you see, they were all sown on Saturday the 13th of January. By Wednesday the 17th, the first to poke their head through were the French breakfast radish. Following day on the 18th, Thursday the 18th, the pak choy started germinating. The following day, cauliflower Boris and Skipper started to germinate. And the following day, on Saturday the 20th, onion Rheinsberger started to germinate along with the Red Baron. It did, however, take a week and a day until Sunday the 21st before the spring onions poked their heads through. Also on that same day, on Sunday the 21st, we brought the pak choy and the radish up to the polytunnel. So the reason for bringing the plants up to the polytunnel is that once they have germinated, they need the maximum amount of light that they can get. And being on a windowsill does somewhat hamper that. Now we have a setup down in the house where we're using some silver-backed card so that it does reflect the light back and makes it a bit more light. And that stops them becoming really leggy, which can often happen if you're having to keep your seedlings down in the house and on a windowsill. A conservatory is quite good because you do tend to get light all around, just as you would in this polytunnel here, our Haygrove polytunnel. And actually we had a frost this morning. It got down to -1, but looking at the temperature today, it's actually 12 degrees in here. And it actually never froze in here, which it won't, unless it's a really, really harsh one. So therefore these plants can now just grow on. They'll get used to this temperature. And also what I find is that when it comes time to planting these out, they won't need any hardening off, because the temperature in this polytunnel is not much different now to the temperature outside. It's just overnight that it gets a bit colder. During the day, it's about 8-9 degrees at the moment outside when I looked at the thermometer, and it's 12 in here. So there's not a huge amount of difference. I did see, and I can't remember who it was now, but somebody commented about the chickens and the damage that they can do. Well, we don't find that Oz cause too much damage, but you do have to bear in mind that most of our crops are actually covered with mesh, principally because of the pigeons. They don't tend too much to go after anything large. Usually it's the smaller plants, if they're going to attack something, they'll go after, but we haven't really had too much damage in the way of that. And actually the benefits probably outweigh the downside. And they scratch along, as you can see Rosie doing there. They're actually finding lots of the bugs and the pests that are in the soil and waiting to do damage to your plants. They're very good at finding them and eating them. And just like you said on your comment, we don't like to think of ours caged up all day, so they do come out every day. Lovely to see Mandy and Tim again. It was last August, of course, when they put our tunnel up, so it really was brilliant to see them both again. Actually, we're really quite impressed with what we've managed to grow in there so far. We haven't even started on the summer vegetables yet. And of course that's going to involve melons. I'll grow along for this year. So it's not going to be too long now. Have a great gardening week, won't you all? And we shall see you next time.